Ayca, Aydogdu, and welcome to Tell Me. This week on Tell Me, we're talking about university life during the pandemic. Millions of students worldwide already face the uncertainty of not having sat the exams, whether they would get in the choice of their university and how the experience would be after that. And now, many countries having reopened universities in the midst of this pandemic has led to major campus outbreaks. Some have halted face-to-face teaching and more turning to online classes, and some universities having to put students under lockdown on campuses without notice. And above all, universities around the world are facing a major funding crisis due to sudden loss of revenues because of this pandemic. So in this edition of Tell Me, we'll be talking to a student from the US, Mohammad Abou Elezz, how the experience is to be studying during this pandemic. And then psychologist Dr. Taniesha Burke is joining us to talk about the students' well-being and also what the mental and the psychological challenges are during this time. And also how are universities coping, and Chief Operating Officer of Swansea University Andrew Rhodes will be answering our questions. So thank you all of you joining us on Tell Me this week, and also a big thank you to the students who have shared their views with us and sent in videos. Now let's first watch Sydney from the US, how the experience is for her.
Hi, my name is Sydney Moy. I'm a senior at the University of Florida, and some problems that I have with studying during this pandemic are most of my classes are all held on Zoom or via online instruction, and so when it comes to studying outside of actual class time, it becomes really difficult because I feel like I've been cooped up in the same place all day and I want to get outside and I want to go on a walk, and studying after staying inside for that long really is a challenge for me. I find it really difficult to focus after being inside for that long, and it also makes you feel a bit lonely. This campus is so big, there's so many people, and it's really hard to make it feel bigger than yourself because all of this is going on. For the future challenges or future worries, I honestly am worried about society as a whole. It feels like we've been trying to just be patient and wait until this pandemic is over, but at this point it feels like this is just life now and it's passing us by. So that's going to be a difficult thing to realize and deal with, even for me.
So Mohammad, let's start off with you. That's also Sydney's experience there in the US, and you are also studying in the US. How has the experience been so far for you during this pandemic?
We just have to wait, like Sydney was talking about, just the whole idea of patience, of getting through this together. In my university in particular, the University of Kentucky, we've been making very many efforts to moderate cases on campus, to regulate such with so many testing sites on campus that every student can go through for free to do to get checked up every week. So to say that I'm accepting this as the new system is kind of just that's not how I'm going at all. I don't think it's really the best way to learn, but I believe that as a community we all need to work together to defeat this battle, to defeat this pandemic, and go back to the way learning was before as soon as possible.
Let's now watch another video by Sita, who's from Islamabad.
Hi, I'm Sabira from Pakistan and I'm currently studying psychology. The ecosystem of university life was badly impacted after the coronavirus outbreak. Classes were cancelled and they were shifted online, and even the exams got cancelled. And I was graded according to my previous performances, but I was not satisfied with it, and neither I was satisfied with the online classes. Because according to psychology, the teacher-student direct interaction and classroom environment plays an important role in learning and understanding. And obviously, this element was not being fulfilled in online classes. Then, a few weeks ago, the government decided to open doors to the universities. I was excited for this, but on my first day, I realized that this is not the right way. Because everyone was wearing masks throughout the class, and I was unable to interact with my teachers or my class fellows. Due to this, it took me around 2 to 3 weeks to adjust in my class, and during those 2 to 3 weeks, obviously my learning was being affected. I don't know how long this outbreak is going to continue, but I know that if this continues for a very long period of time, this will definitely going to affect our in-university life.
Now, let's bring in psychologist Dr. Taniesha Burke there. Taniesha, so as we can hear that many students' concerns are the same, or worries. First of all, adjusting to online classes, they find it pretty difficult. And also some have mentioned they feel lonely. What advice would you give?
One of the things that students will need to take advantage of is the student support that universities have. So I'm hoping that a lot of universities have moved their online support, mental health support online for students. Take advantage of that as much as possible. Even though we're doing social distancing right now, what I encourage students to do is to maintain some form of connection where you do your Zoom parties for even studying. You can't study together in the library anymore, but you can study together via Zoom or via Skype or some other online platform. Have time to do mindfulness exercises. So this is a very stressful time, and university students are the populations most at risk for example, anxiety and depression, and COVID even increased those risks. So you have to practice a lot of self-care, and I would recommend exercising, doing mindfulness exercise every day. Importantly, look at what your stressors are. So for some students, they might get headaches, they might get stomach aches, they might find it difficult to concentrate. Look at how your body is communicating to you as you go through this period. Listen to your body, and then use certain tools such as mindfulness, meditation, and so on to get yourself back into equilibrium.
So awareness is very important here. Let's bring in Chief Operating Officer of Swansea University Andrew Rhodes here. Andrew, so what are you doing in terms of mental health and well-being at Swansea University? And I'll just pop in a second question in there quickly as well. Now, having seen these major outbreaks at campuses, especially if we just look at the UK, I believe 5,000 cases already in 8 universities. So do you think it was a wise decision to open universities right now, or should have been the first term online and just kept the students at home to be safe?
Well, if we take the second question, universities were in a very difficult position in the summer of 2020 when cases were much lower. We're having to make decisions about what we're going to offer to students. In all of the clips you've played so far, students want that face-to-face teaching. They want that genuine university experience. And what we're trying to deliver is something that meets that expectation, but is also safe. And not all universities are in the same position. There are some universities with some pretty extreme difficulties in terms of COVID-19 outbreaks, but others are in a more controlled way. What we've been doing in terms of supporting students is quite a lot. We've spent just under £250,000 on some open air covered spaces for students to socialise. It's important they have that interaction. We've publicised all of the open spaces where students can meet. It's so important they're able to talk to each other, not just through a screen like this. It's incredibly important to them. We've invested almost £200,000 extra in mental health and wellbeing support, and that's both online and some of it's face-to-face. We're maintaining as much face-to-face teaching and contact time as we possibly can whilst keeping everybody safe. And we've allowed students to maintain social bubbles so they can socialise more easily than they might otherwise be able to do. But it is undoubtedly difficult for them. It is a very different experience to the experience they would have had 12 months ago. And what we're trying to do is get them into a position where they can enjoy their time at university, they can study well, they get the exact same lectures, seminars, tutorials from the exact same academics. And there is a big difference, and a lot of that is delivered online. But I do think the universities can deliver an education and deliver it safely, but it is undoubtedly challenging.
And you mean that by face-to-face lessons or turning to online lessons?
Well, we're delivering both at Swansea University. So we're delivering an element of face-to-face teaching. So obviously there's a lot less people in the room. They're wearing face coverings, but they are still getting face-to-face time in both lectures, seminars, tutorials, and other support interactions with the tutors and academics that work for us. A lot of our content is being delivered online, but we felt it was really important to deliver what we're calling blended learning. Particularly for students who've come from overseas, they'll be possibly adapting to being within the UK for the first time. It's going to be a very different environment for them. So having that social interaction is something they want, but is incredibly important for their experience and also for their well-being.
Okay, well, let's now watch another video by a student from Ghana, Abdul Majid.
Hello, my name is Abdelmajid Yacoub, a student of Political Science, University of Education, Winneba, Ghana. Indeed, the world has experienced a pandemic which has affected all aspects of life. Education was indeed not excluded. Here in Ghana, in March, Ghana went into a partial lockdown. Subsequently, students were advised or were asked to go to use the electronic learning system. Electronic learning system also came with its own challenges. Here in Ghana, we already have network problem. So imagine student has to go through electronic learning system in a condition like that. And the cost of data is also very, very problematic. It's also very, very challenging to students. Students were really, really down during assessment. Some students, the university did all that it could to open a portal, but some students couldn't access it. And during assessment, some students had challenges in submission, which at the end, their results turn out to be something different, or it really, really affected students. For the future, I think this pandemic has exposed the country and the world. It has shown our weaknesses that if we should work upon it. So I think the future should be brighter if we try to work and then correct all these mistakes. Thank you.
Of course, we're talking about here worldwide, Mohammed, so I'm continuing with you here. And every country, of course, it has its own different problems as Abdul Majid here has mentioned, especially for them going online is pretty difficult. So do you think, Mohammed, it has brought out the weaknesses of the higher education system, this pandemic, especially considering that students are paying tuition fees?
I think so. Definitely, yes. That's a good point. With the fees, you said there have been attempts to kind of lower costs for tuition for, to compensate for the lack of in-person classes, even though there are some in-person, some online. However, I think when you speak of weaknesses, yes, I think there's a clear showing of the lack of or the discrepancy kind of resources towards students. And I can't help but to think that this is partly due to the availability of resources to every individual student. Some may have the higher technology, the newest MacBooks, the newest Dell computers, whatever it may be, whereas others are still, they were struggling in times before this pandemic to even be able to get these kind of technological advancements to further enhance their education. And when we come in a time like so, with this pandemic going on and the closing of in-person classes and financial burdens, we need more support from universities to actually offer these resources to all of their student community for everyone to succeed just as well as the other.
Okay, well, let's now watch another video by Enda, who's studying in Vienna.
Hello, I'm Enda. I'm from Turkey and I'm currently studying in Vienna. I came here in the middle of September and since then I'm living on my own. It's a very good experience for me, but I miss my family a lot. But I'm here with my friends, so they make it easier for me. Because of the corona situation, I don't know if I'm going to be able to go to my home at Christmas. And even if I go there, I don't know if I'm going to be able to come here back to study. So this is a very uncertain situation. I study at the University of Economics and Business, and it is online this year. So I can't go to school and I just go to the library to study. And I had a dream when I was coming here, which was meeting new people from different nationalities, and I can't fulfill my dream because of this situation. So I hope that everything goes back to normal as soon as possible. Take care.
Taniesha, in terms of looking at the reality that this is going to be the reality for a while, what solutions are there? What would you propose to institutions to do, or the governments?
For institutions, let's begin with the international. So we're talking about international students. The international departments, the department that's in charge of having to recruit and bring in the international students, they need to ramp up the online support that they have for these students, make sure that they have counselors, psychologists available to provide counseling for those who might be experiencing anxiety and depression. The government as well need to be giving more funding to the universities and colleges for mental health to support these institutions to help these students, because times are not normal, and because of the additional stress of COVID, we're going to see an increase in students having mental health challenges. So there needs to be a significant increase in support for the institutions, and the institutions then need to provide For example, you might have, for students who are already in the system, international students, you may want to increase your buddy program for new students, so that the new students can have someone who was an international student at the beginning, maybe 2-3 years ago, supporting them. They can do their Zoom calls, their WhatsApp calls, Skype calls, and so on, to have that kind of support. Or you can bring the international students again in a Zoom party and have them meet regularly, once a week, twice a week, to talk about what's happening with them, the challenges that they're having. And the international department and the mental health counseling department need to be working in tandem with each other to see what is happening, so the international coordinators can say, this is the increase that I'm seeing with the students. We need more resources in this area or that area. So it has to be a more collaborative effort from all aspects of the university, but particularly each department needs to seriously consider the mental health department at the university to make sure that we're not leaving any student behind, particularly the international students who do not have the local support, or even their parents who might be a drive away. They don't have that as a possibility. So there has to be some effort to have more of a group system provided for them.
Well, that's really good advice to take on board. Now, we have another video by Janset from studying in Milan.
I am studying architecture at the Polytechnic University of Milan, Italy, and I'm attending my lectures remotely right now as I'm waiting for my visa to arrive. I have to say that I am very surprised but also very pleased to see how my online classes are going this smoothly. Even though we have some face-to-face classes we need to attend if we are in Milan, those classes can be observed through cameras in the classroom, and the professors are really helpful if we come across any complications due to online processes, but I am yet to come across one. I can only say that the downside for me is not being able to attend those face-to-face studio classes and not being able to fully experience the student life in Milan right now. But I hope, since everyone's taking this COVID-19 situation very seriously nowadays, I will be able to do soon as well, and I hope that every student can go back to their educations as it used to be face-to-face.
So, Andrew, we can see that Janset is quite satisfied with how the university is coping with online teaching, online learning. So we can say Swansea University can set an example here, but we are looking at the worldwide picture. And when we spoke to Mohammad, he mentioned that not everyone has the latest computers or the same online resources. Not every country has the same infrastructure. So when you look at the system right now during this pandemic, what needs to change?
Well, universities are under a lot of financial pressure, so they'll have to focus on the absolute essentials. As an example, what we've done at Swansea University, we've invested in extra laptops and digital equipment for students who might not have equipment that meets their needs. They wouldn't have originally planned earlier in 2020 necessarily to be coming to university and being so reliant on a laptop or an iPad or anything like that. So we're making that provision and loaning extra equipment where we need to. Also, as I said earlier on, we've significantly increased our mental health and welfare provision. Universities have been seeing mental health and welfare issues increasing year on year over the last 5 years, certainly. So it's something that's been growing, but will grow much more rapidly. In terms of the overall educational system, it's making sure that universities are clear with students as to what they should experience. What will they be given? What will they be expected to do? How will we assess them this year? Where do they need to be? And making sure they've got social activities, they've got access to sport, they can get outside. You know, we kept our libraries open so that students can go, but they've got to book in. We can't have everybody arrive at once. So the whole system has to do that. And I completely agree. Government has a role in supporting universities through this period, because universities are actually offering a lot of the mental health and welfare support to young people that governments otherwise would be offering. So it's really important those things connect together and everybody understands how this should work. And we support anybody who is away from home, anybody who feels ill, or somebody who's worried about their studies. And that's something we focused on very, very heavily at Swansea. And I'm glad at the moment that our coronavirus numbers are in a reasonably good place compared to where some others are.
And taking that what Enda was studying in Vienna said, she wasn't sure whether she'd be going back home in Christmas and whether if she did would be returning, that she could return back. So how is it looking beyond Christmas? Do you think things are going to change or stay the same?
I think it's really difficult to know what's going to happen next week, let alone what might happen by Christmas. We're planning on students hopefully being able to return home. We've made contingency plans if students do have to stay because the situation is particularly bad. We're not expecting that, and we're hoping that's not the case. I think we will see some students who will return home and through a variety of reasons may decide not to come back to campus. Though I could say at Swansea at the moment, only around 10% of our students have indicated so far they only wish to study online. So the remaining 90% still want some contact time with their professors and tutors. They still want to be able to socialise safely with their flatmates, their fellow students. So unless that changes quite considerably, I still think the majority of students will want to return to their university campuses after Christmas. But at this point in time, it is very, very difficult to predict what's happening with the virus. And it's different in each country, and it's different within countries, as we've seen within the UK system.
Of course, and that means many governments and many institutions actually have to step up and give that kind of education to students, offer that future for them. So let's watch another video now from Samantha, who's studying in the US.
Studying during a pandemic has definitely been something I've had to get used to. Some of the challenges including less study spaces on campus, they've changed all the hours, they've closed certain coffee shops, they don't permit food and drink in some locations that they used to, masks are required the entire time, and just studying with other people just isn't very encouraged. Myself, personally, I love studying with other people. I think it holds me accountable and allows me to get things done. I also don't like studying in my room or my home. I feel like that's my place of relaxation where I wind down for the day or wake up or just hang out with my roommates and not have to worry about homework or things like that. So it is a little difficult to put education and learning into a space that it previously wasn't. So for the future, if I had to have any worry, it would just be how I'm going to continue learning and being open to this new kind of style of learning when it's just something I've never had to deal with in the past.
Mohammad, so a last question to you as we're wrapping up the programme here. Most students, as they said, they wish things to go back to normal and have the university experience they dreamed of. But by the looks of things, it's not going to be for a while, as we don't know what next week will bring. So tell us about your future worries or future wants.
Well, I'm just currently in future worries, just all the same things that are going on. I kind of don't want, the same system of things that are going on as we mentioned before. I want to change back to the normal. As Samantha was saying, I think in the last video, the whole idea of studying with peers, that being disencouraged now, I think that just shows the whole the restrictions of everything that's being put in place. One burden that no one really wants to go through, but is the reality nowadays, is putting restrictions on quite literally everything. Amount of people in a certain space, bringing food, not bringing food, so you can keep your mask on and whatnot. This really shows a big struggle between the whole, interplay of just getting that good education that you need, as well as working on your mental health, as we've been mentioning. One worry that I'm particularly hoping that they fix is the idea of, social life, the idea of letting students interact with one another without the worries of spreading this virus around to other students, to staff, to unsuspecting individuals. Hopefully, we won't need to say years, but even if that comes into play, is just the interplay between giving their students a strong education as well as maintaining their mental health.
Well, let's Let's hope for that, and let's hope also for a better test and trace system worldwide. Let's hope for vaccinations so students can actually have the education they dreamed of. Well, thank you very much, Mohammad Abou Elezz, Dr. Taniesha Burke and Andrew Rhodes for joining us on the programme this week. And next week on Tell Me, we're looking at the US elections, but in a different light. So why are we all around the world watching US President Donald Trump and following the US elections? Why the interest? Why does it matter to us? Who sits in the White House? Well, next week we will be talking about that. Do share your thoughts and interests and concerns with me on Cha-Cha-I. Do stay safe and sane until next week.